I make a beat every day and that works for me. Then there are the people who are like, I can't do that. I got 17 kids. I got this. And I'm like, all right, that's your life. You know, the narrative that the artist can only make good art whenever they feel like it, that they can't put themselves on a schedule, that they can't live a structured life, causes a lot of destruction.
Those are the artists I will not manage. You say that to me is a red flag. I'm like, nah, like we not doing that.
What's going down? It's the At Odds podcast. We really are at odds today. Good morning, everyone. Morning to them. And a shout out to everyone that's tuning in, especially the people that leave comments, especially the people that suggest new topics. Still looking for a tagline. I'm serious about that. If you have a slogan for the show, drop it as a comment. And we really appreciate everyone who signs up for Two Lost. That helps keep the podcast going. So if you want free premium music distribution, go to twolost.com, use the code ATODDS for 3 free months of premium music distribution. Drop your songs or schedule them at least a month early to get on release radar. And that gives you some time to promote. But 3 months of that, you have plenty of time to schedule some releases. Not just some, a lot of releases. twolost.com, the code is ATODDS. Don't pay for music distribution. We have a lot to talk about today.
I mean, we appreciate you signing up, but you should appreciate yourself signing up because it's a better distributor than you're using. So, you know, but yeah, we could jump into it. Payne, what do we got first? You said something in regards to Hit Kid.
Yeah, who we've talked about before. It was, if you don't know who Hit Kid is, he's a producer out of Memphis. He's known for Glorilla's first hits, among other things. He's a producer who develops artists too, but he just posted this, and I imagine this has something to do with the text we were sending back and forth last night, Aaron. What are your takes on this? It seems like he's summarizing everything that's been going on within rap fandom over the years on the internet. So Hit Kid says rapper does numbers, y'all say the numbers don't mean the rapper's good. Rapper doesn't do numbers, y'all say the rapper isn't good because they don't do numbers. Rapper gets famous, y'all say famous and everything. Rapper doesn't get famous, y'all downplay their artistry because they're not famous, blah, blah. I'm shutting my mouth. I want to hear what your takes are on this.
Well, finish it for people that may just be listening. So rapper doesn't get famous, y'all downplay their artistry because they're not famous. Rapper releases complex rhymes, y'all don't want to put in effort to understand them. Rapper releases simple rhymes, y'all complain they're too basic. Rapper coming up with will sell tickets $5 to $20. Y'all don't attend. Rappers make it and tickets cost $300 to $800. Y'all say it's too expensive. Just admit y'all don't really want to see people win. Y'all want to control the narrative as to why someone is losing. Here's the thing. Like, I agree to a certain extent, but like the way I feel it, like the internet has every opinion, right? So you can find opinions that fit exactly what he says. However, if I wanted to lean into more positivity and block out the negativity, I can find opinions that are more positive. If I wanted to just be negative, you can find an opinion that supports anything said, right? So at this point, you know, you just you choose whether you want to lean into more negativity or more positivity. I mean, there are some things that happen where there maybe is a overwhelmingly response that's positive or negative, but I feel a lot of times it's just a lot of noise with a lot of stuff going on. And, you know, you can always come up with a tweet and say, they say, right? And your they will be the people that you pick to lean into because they say everything. So, you know, obviously there are people that pay $300, $800 to go to these shows. I mean, if you go to a Drake, J. Cole show, there's going to be a shitload of people that did pay the money, right? And then there's going to be a bunch of people that say, whoa, those tickets were too expensive and they're not dope enough, so they're going to stay home. So they could be anybody. Every opinion's out there. Protect your peace and lean into the positivity is my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with Hit Kid and I agree with Dame. Like, I mean, I guess agreeing with Hit Kid is agreeing with Dame. People say whatever. I had this conversation with Piff Marty actually recently, and he was talking about how he essentially sterilized his timeline to only focus on things that helped him meet his goals and like encouraged him. So he was like, I stopped following all these things. I blocked these different words. And he was like, it's amazing the effect it'll have on your psyche. And I was like, that's been my whole existence on the internet. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, because when I was a kid, my mom was very intentional about guarding us from things. And I used to hate it because I was like, man, I feel like we're sheltered. But it wasn't like she was telling us that didn't exist. It wasn't like we were so sheltered we didn't know what was going on. My mom was like, this is not beneficial to you. Like, I grew up and she wouldn't let me look at magazines. And I remember the first time that I would try to look at them and she'd be like, you don't need to look at that. And then when I got older, I'm like, Mom, I want this magazine. And she was like, no, because it's going to mess with the way that you see your body image. The moment she explained it to me, I was like, cool. I have not ever really struggled with self-esteem when it comes to the way that I look. And people think that that's wild. They're like, really? You've never? And I'm not saying that I've always thought I was perfect and the most whatever, but I don't struggle with my personal self-esteem, regardless of weight, skin, all these different things that have fluctuated. I've always gotten healthier from a perspective of I love myself, right? So I've always curated my internet experience that way. If somebody's complaining a lot, unfollow or I'll mute them. If somebody is really rude to people or racist or any of that, I'm quick to unfollow or mute. That's why, segueing into a little bit of another topic that we're going to talk about later, you sent it to us last night. I was like, I haven't even heard it. There's so many things on the internet that I may catch a glimpse of or see somebody talking about, but that doesn't cause me to say, oh, I got to go check this out now. My impulse control is really within check. So if I don't feel like it's going to add value to my life or to the world, diverse perspectives are needed. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be consuming things that you don't necessarily agree with. I consume a lot of stuff that I don't agree with because I need to expand my worldview. However, if it's causing me duress or it's really just drama or extra things, I don't do it. So what Payne was alluding to was he said something about what was the text that you had said? All my texts got wiped last night. You said something about like popular. It's good because it's I don't know. Tell me, Payne, what did you say?
I was late. Let me look it up. It had to do with just how rap fans.
Oh yeah, you said
dialogue.
This is the I said I don't want to listen to it because it seems more like drama than it does a rap competition. And you said that sounds like the rap game right now. And I was like, not the indies. Like, in my opinion, I'm not experiencing any of that on my side of the world. I'm listening to incredible artists who are adding value, who lyrical miracle to wave riders. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying there's one specific type of rap that I'm listening to. I'm just saying that there's a lot of value and ethics being inserted into the world from rap culture right now. And what's happening in the populist media is not for me right now. But yeah, I think you can find whatever you want. And like Dame said, you just can keep reinforcing that. I'm on the auntie side of the internet where we're talking about hair care and citronella and sleep rhythms and getting sun. Like, that's where I'm at. And occasionally Drake drops in there and I move to the side. But yeah.
Because if
you curate your experience, a lot of that curation entails blocking out what's there by default. So just like you said, the magazines lean in towards a narrative that isn't positive. I think that can be applied to just rap fans in general on the internet. It can apply to the producer community in general on the internet. And today's new media absolutely showcases it because it's engaging. I just saw I think ironically, it was a YouTube short about how short form content tends to be negative because people watch it through and it's so brief that it boosts it in the algorithm. You don't even necessarily have to engage with it because watch time is what actually gives it that extra push. So that's one of the reasons that so much anger within the attention economy of the internet is being amplified, because the platforms actually enable negative content to be boosted because it's controversial. If someone agrees with something, they don't tend to have long, drawn-out conversations about it. They agree and move on. If someone says something controversial, there are eyes on it. It's engaging. So the journalists have figured that out. People on Twitter, especially with the blue checks, have figured that out. People who run media outlets figure it out. YouTubers figure it out. Negative, negative, negative. So I agree with what you're all saying, but Hit Kid's point, I think, just summarizes the state of dialogue on the internet at large, but especially within the rap fan community, not necessarily the artist community, but within the rap fan community. And unless you take steps to block a lot of that stuff out, which I think you should, that's what you're going to get flooded with.
But even with what he said, you know, the tweet's not still up, but like, you know, they said something about complex rhyme versus simple rhymes. Like, there's a lot of people that love the complexity in like a Kendrick Lamar, right? And then he talked about $5, $20 tickets to $300, $800 tickets. Like, there's people attending both, right? So if you lean into what he's saying as an independent artist, it might discourage you, and you'd be like, well, fuck it, I'm not gonna keep doing this. There's no hope. Right. However, if you're following the La Russells and the Piff Martys and the Russes and the Nick D's, if you're following people that are actually doing this independently and are finding success, then that might give you encouragement instead of being discouraged by what Hit Kid is saying. Right. Like, I can go on the internet and find people that say the earth is flat. I can find somebody that says the earth is round. I could probably find somebody that says the earth is rectangle. I could probably find somebody that tells you the earth doesn't even really exist. We just float and everything's in our minds. Like, I could find somebody to tell you, they could tell you anything. So it really just depends on how you want to move, feel, and operate. Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, I can. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. We could probably move forward.
Well, we've been talking about Piff Marty a lot. Maybe that's a prophecy here because he posted something. Did you want to talk about that, or do we want to?
We can jump into that.
Oh, no, you wanted to talk about Rob.
That was a topic that Aaron wanted to talk about, the Piff Marty thing.
Okay, well, we can talk about whatever we want. It's our podcast. We run this thing.
You want to put up his tweet so people can get. It's in our Twitter. I mean, it's in our Twitter DM.
I know I'm being derelict as the producer of this podcast. Let me grab.
While we have a break, make sure you tune in to Two Lost Office Hours every Monday. I got some heavy hitters coming up. I got Ray Daniels joining today. If you're listening on Monday, he'll be tapping in. Ray Daniels, aka the Culture Referee. I feel like we should have nicknames. And then I got the homie Jabari, who's the founder, creator of R&B Only, or I guess the company's called Colors Worldwide. So we got some heavy hitters coming up. But here we go. Here's the tweet from
I would love nicknames. I love nicknames. And I read the comments, and so I feel like I could be like the music therapist or something like that. Like, I'm all about feelings and intention and thought process. I think we should consider nicknames. And if you have a nickname for us, drop it in the comments. I would like to see what y'all got to say. But don't be rude. If you gonna be rude, just don't say it.
You're gonna be rude.
You're talking to the internet now. You talking. Don't be telling the internet not to be rude. That's what
we just talked about. See, Hit Kid is right. Hit Kid is 100% right.
That's what.
When I get in the comments, I'm always shocked because, again, I curate my internet. I get shocked so often. I'm like, damn, like, where'd you even come up with that? Like, you really had to sit and think of something mean to say. Like, go do something productive. Like, that's just not my reality. I don't sit and think negative thoughts.
Yeah, no, I get a pretty good mix, but there's definitely some people. It's just people that there's a lot of assumptions about people that you don't even know. Oh yeah, he must have did this because of this. And it's like, to them, it's a fact. It's not even just an opinion. Like, I think that Dame is grumpy because blah, blah, blah. No, Dame's grumpy. I know he is because, like, how do you know anything? Like, we have to go back to school and like relearn like you're allowed to have an opinion. You can have an opinion on anything, but like you don't know people on the internet. Like you don't know us. You don't know Aaron. You don't know who we really are. Like, and that's why people get fooled all the time. People get catfished and all this because you kind of start thinking that you know for sure. Like, that was crazy. Like during the Funk Volume fallout, like everybody knew for sure, like what I was doing, why I did it, how I did it. I'm like, you would think these people were in our meetings, like just a fly on the wall, or there was like a camera, like in all our conversations. Like, how are you so entrenched in your opinion to the point where you feel like it's a fact? Like that's so dangerous to me. But anyway, back to Piff.
Attention economy. Hit kid, what it do?
You want me to read it? Go ahead.
I can read it. So Piff said, I guess it was a couple of days ago, he said, had a homie referred to him wanting to be a creative consistently as getting his shots up. And we both came to the realization how damaging that is. Art is not a gym. Art isn't about routine. Treating creativity like a gym session risks turning it into something which can stifle genuine artistic innovation. Yes, show up for yourself 100%, but remember, this shit is supposed to be fun.
Those are the artists I will not manage. You say that to me is a red flag. I'm like, nah, like we not doing that. It's fair, again, for him to have his opinion, but for me as a manager who doesn't manage music artists anymore, red flag. This is supposed to be fun. Like, nah, this ain't always fun. Ain't nothing that people really, really want to do for their job. Like, it ain't always going to be fun. So I disagree. And I believe that artists create differently. And I told Piff this. I replied to him. Like, every artist is different. If that's how you rock, that's how you rock. And you need another manager that's not like me. But, Eminem, from what I understand, I've heard him say that he kind of clocks in and out. Like, he treats it like a 9 to 5. I can't remember who he was collaborating with, but he like walked out of the studio at 5. And the artist wasn't used to that. He was like, yo, is he gone? Like, he's like, yeah, he'll be back tomorrow at 9. Like, that's how he works, So I think every artist is different. I think you do kind of got to get your reps in. And I think, I think some of the songwriters that I know that put out a lot of music, like Brianna Marin, that I know, like she just is so quick at making music because she got her reps in. Like, especially these days where you have to create a lot. I think you do have to get your reps in to get good and really understand, like, how you're structuring songs, how you're creating hooks and things like that. So I'm like 20% rock with that, but like 80% is I can't Piff that.
I think, it's funny because I saw the tweet and then sent it to y'all like, oh, we should discuss this. And then I saw your response, Dame. So I was like, oh, we're on the same page as far as like, this is a discussion point. I'm somewhat with Dame on this, but I think it's just kind of like the artist evolution. So I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. I think it's a privilege to not treat it as a gym, like to say like, I'm not worried about getting my shots up. I'm just letting the art flow to me. It's a privilege when it's not your responsibility to make the money, right? So if you're not making money from music, you have the privilege of saying, I just want this to be fun, yada, yada, yada. And once you make a ton of money or the type of money that you need to manage yourself and your team, you can then switch back to that. I just want this to be fun. So I do believe that there are ebbs and flows when you can do that. But as an executive that iterates very creatively, I had the same ebb and flow. When I first started in the music industry, I was like, I just love this. It's just what I want to do. And I had other sources of income. Then I had a whole team to manage. Even though what I do, I really love and I really enjoy. And most of my job now, not even then, but most of my job is about ideation and creativity. I still have to focus. I travel a lot in general, but I've been traveling nonstop for the last 3 weeks. And I just decided full stop, I got to take a month off from traveling because I can't even get into the rhythm of like sending emails properly or like waking up at the same time to, and like I have a fluctuating like 2 hour window of wake up time, 2 hour window of start or end time. So I'm fluid. I'm not saying it's got to be so regimented. Dame is way more organized and diligent and militant about his schedule. I'm still kind of like, but I have to have the discipline to say, no, I'm going to do this. And again, my job has become ideation, innovation, creativity because I spent so much time every single day coming up with ideas, writing how they would finish out, like, here are the problems, here are the pitfalls, here are the budgets, here's the unfun stuff, here's the fun stuff. So it's just rudimentary for me. So when clients are calling me or I'm doing different things, it's very simple for me to be able to give direct and helpful responses because it's coming out of me putting up a bunch of shots. If you're trash at music and you say you just want to and I know music is subjective, so don't eat me up. But if you're not good at your craft and you're like, I just do this for fun, we can't put the shots up. That's what to me leads to a lot of inconsistency, which is why people aren't good at their craft. If you're consistently and so again, I think this is Piff, it's his journey and I think it's helpful, but he's speaking from a privileged perspective as an actualized, healthy artist. When you reach, again, me and Payne talked about this last week, when you reach a place of self-actualization where you're like, I thought this was the thing that I wanted, but I've actually discovered it's not the thing that I wanted, that comes on the other side of all the hard work that you've put in, and it's okay to pivot then. We're not disagreeing with Piff, but I wanted to add context because a new artist or somebody who is striving to grow and to make a living off of their art. And I'll say it specifically like that. If you just want to do art for the sake of art, but if you are looking to make a living off of your art, you have to sit at the intersection of art and commerce. And if you are not prepared to do things that you don't like and to consistently regurgitate the thing that you want to be known for, you'll find yourself in more frustration than ease. And you'll be mad that you have to do this, or you'll be mad that you're not making the type of money you want to make, or you'll be mad that you're passed over on deals because they asked you to do something 3 or 4 times and you just wanted to be fun. So I do think art should be fun. I do think art should be beautiful. I think it can also be painful and difficult. I think that when you're learning a new craft, just like when you're learning to record yourself, you're terrible at it. You have to try again. So, I mean, this is not a disagreement. I just think that there's an ebb and flow that, yes, sometimes art is just fun. It's just let's do this thing. Let's experience all of our feelings and emotions. But when you're trying to get good at something, you have to be intentional about the repetition and consistency of it.
There were times like in the beginning stages of Funk Volume where Hop was going through some stuff. My brother was going through some stuff. And I was sitting here like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, and that's where like a lot of other ideas came out. We started the Don't Fuck Up Our Beats contest. We started doing community service because that was born out of like our inactivity. I was like, y'all, the only way, maybe Piff has this opinion because he is in a comfortable place now and he can kind of pick and choose. Or maybe he says this because he's always making music because it's always fun. I don't think that's the case. I think he goes through his moments where he doesn't want to create. But especially when you start getting other people involved and you got a team, like y'all got to get on the same page. If you're going to tap out sometimes and be super inconsistent, they need to know that and they need to be okay with that. Right? Because people more on the business side are probably going to have some more structure, some routine. They're going to have some expectations on a weekly, monthly basis. And if you just tap out because shit ain't fun right now, then we either have to talk about that or substitute it with something else. Maybe you can shift your creativity to more visuals or doing something, but we got to keep the ship afloat. So, it's a tweet, so maybe there's more context to what he was saying.
Oh, there's tons of context because it's his life and he's a a highly successful artist who's, to my knowledge, unsigned, which means he's doing all this himself. There's no way he lives without structure. That's what my fear is with that tweet, because it validates people who are living and existing without structure. You know, it's like when I say make a beat every day, or when I say I make a beat every day and that works for me, then there are the people who are like, I can't do that. I got 17 kids. I got this. And I'm like, all right, that's your life. You created that situation. We're different. We have different lifestyles. I'm just speaking on what works for me, right? From where I am at this moment. And so that's, again, it goes back to the internet. People just think they know and they take stuff and run with it. So I can see people taking this and running with it. And, you know, the narrative that the artist can only make good art whenever they feel like it, that they can't put themselves on a schedule, that they can't live a structured life, causes a lot of destruction to not just an artist's careers in the sense of them making money, but to their overall mentality when it comes to approaching and making art. For example, someone replied, okay, what about Kobe? And I think, all right, cool. Let's just think about athletes in general. I know they're not artists, but what they do isn't easy. And I think this applies to every talent in life. You have to nurture your talent if you want to do it at a higher level. No one in any of the leagues did this shit once or twice and got drafted. It's just not how it worked. When you listen to their stories, this is what's so crazy to me about music, especially in rap. We idolize NBA, the NFL, all these sports stars, the WNBA. We're always just, you know, like damn near every rap song has a line referencing or using sports as a metaphor. And so new artists hear all that, you know, they'll say some shit, you know, I'm balling like Kobe. That's like the most overused simile in rap. Okay, you're balling like Kobe. Are you practicing like him? It's like we can't take that logical leap. Obviously, we know their stories. Obviously, we know how much more competitive professional sports are than music. And then we look at our music and we're like, I'm not practicing. What are you talking about? I don't feel inspired right now. I haven't felt inspired for the last year. That's why I haven't dropped anything. I had an ex who was an amazing visual artist, and she got so mad at me for saying this, but she asked me, and like she didn't really want my advice, but she asked me, how do you make music as a career? And like, I put it as simply as I could. I said, I like it, so I do it. Like, that's really just, and she was so mad. She's like, you're not taking me seriously. I'm like, you're not taking yourself seriously. My house was full of unfinished pieces. And I'm like, so when are you going to finish that? You can't force me. I can't force inspiration. This is like, okay, none of the pieces got done. You didn't feel happy. You had other stuff going on in your life. But this mentality stops artists dead in their tracks. And I have to ask an artist who truly feels this way, do you really love something if you dislike practicing it? And as we know, artistry isn't just about the art. It's about everything surrounding it. I mean, when you're a painter, you have to figure out techniques. You have to figure out which paints you want to use. You have to figure out the canvas stretch. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Same with music. If you want to be a successful musician, you're not just writing a verse. You're coordinating times to record if you don't have your own studio. You're planning your releases. You're communicating with fans. And then, you know, it gets even deeper than that. You're talking about branding. You're talking about content strategy. And that's where a lot of artists' eyes glaze over and they're like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm an artist. I just want to make art when I feel inspired. By all means, do that. You're just going to be on the internet a year later bitching about how no one supports your art when you're not even supporting it. You're just making it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't apply to Piff, obviously.
Right. I would say, I don't think this part applies to Piff.
It doesn't.
Piff is, and he plays basketball. Like, he plays in a league. He plays for fun. So I believe that he's making a delineation that has more nuance and context than we could even imagine, especially again because he's a full-time artist. So I just want to reiterate that we are having this discussion because we want this to be beneficial to our community who tend to be up and coming, burgeoning artists and producers who are freshly full-time or trying to become full-time. And so it's just like, hey, let's be careful not to adapt a tweet into our entire thought process and ecosystem as law because it's coming from somebody who is successful. And that is not to negate Piff. I would love to have him on to have a deeper discussion about this as well. And then again, I feel like it's the ebbs and flows of artistry. That tweet might have come out of frustration. It might have come out of a moment instead of like a full experience, or it could have and it does have a lot more context than we know. But I just want to make that note. We're all kind of more so talking about our audience, not specifically reacting to Piff's methodology, because he may be able to do it how he does it, but he would be an outlier and an exception, not the rule.
But I don't think that was always that approach. Like he had to get a lot of reps in terms of how he creates his visuals and promotes himself. Like I don't know how active he's been recently, but he was.
But that's how he started, because you're right. That's how I found out about him. He was posting videos nonstop, and he's such a good rapper. Like I've been around him before. Like he's such a high level thinker that I think some of it comes naturally, but it's clearly honed.
I think, and natural talent. I know people with natural talent that are amazing, but they're not there. They're not at the point where they're making art at the level that they need to. And honestly, that's really frustrating too, because I think people with natural, again, this has nothing to do with Piff Marty. I don't know him. I'd love to work with him though. But I'm thinking more in terms of artists that I've worked with directly who have had a ton of natural talent. And it's very obvious how naturally talented they are. They don't have to try to show off their talent because it's just self-evident, but it's not honed, it's not focused. And so when it comes time to making the kind of, it's like, a baby, a 3-year-old who's well-spoken, and you're like, oh wow, this kid is so well-spoken. That doesn't mean they're ready to publish a novel or become a keynote speaker. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh wow, this person's really talented. They need to stick with it. But if that kid's like, you know what? Everyone's complimenting me, I don't have to do anything. And then they become, a 20-year-old and they're not doing shit with their lives. And they're like, well, what the fuck happened? I was supposed to be, the next Morgan Freeman. And it's like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like that to me is the difference between a hobby and a passion, right? Like a hobby you just do whenever you want to do it because it's fun. However, if you're really passionate about something and you want it to be a career, you do it even when it's not fun. And you do all of the things that aren't fun to get you better at, your craft or your business. That to me is what separates hobbies and passions. And I've said that many times before. Because a lot of people will tap out, even if you don't, because like baseball for me, like I love to play. I still play softball. I got a championship softball game tonight. Like,
congrats. We see you. Congrats.
My team held it down last week when I was in New York. I'll be honest. I thought we was going to lose. Not just because I wasn't there, but just because we just haven't been the strongest team like throughout the season, but we won. So we're still in it tonight. But baseball for me, like I didn't like the practice at all. Batting practice, cool. Like I love batting practice, but like baseball, if you grew up playing baseball, especially as you get into more experienced levels, like there's a lot of situational drills. There's a lot of little things that you have to do, when you're working on defense or even when you're working on your swing, like it's a lot of little things. And, ultimately I did it because I love to play the game so much. So, to me, you have to really love something, for it to really be a passion and you want to make a career out of something. Cause anything that a lot of people aspire to be, whether it's NBA or whatever, like, trust me, they did a ton of shit that they didn't want to do and continue to do. LeBron does a ton of shit to maintain his body, to still be hooping at 39. Like, he's sacrificed a lot. So, we've probably jumped far away from maybe where Piff tweeted this, but I know that a lot of people took it in the way that we're talking about it. So I wanted to talk about it like that. But maybe we will get Piff on soon and he can explain himself.
Yeah, I mean, if you love eating vegetables but you don't want to garden, something's not adding up. So speaking of that,
you can go to the store for that.
They don't equate, because I love vegetables, but multiples of my friends have gardens, so I just go to.
It's a metaphor, Aaron. Come on,
just go to the store. Just go to the store, Payne.
Well, yeah, then you have to pay for it. What was I going to say? This kind of plays into a lot of our other topics. I don't know which ones you want to jump into.
Let's see Rob Abelo's tweet, and let's see some of the.
We got to get Rob on here. Rob be talking. He be talking, and he says a lot of good stuff. I really rock with his tweets. I would love to get him on here.
Yeah, I'll ask him. I mean, we're potentially trying to work something out with Two Lost. And he seemed like a cool cat. I had a good conversation with him. But yeah, he always has some pretty insightful things to say about the music industry. I can't really say that I've disagreed with him that many times. Most of the times where I see his stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's it's on point. So I feel like he has a good hand. He has his hand on the pulse of like what's happening in the independent and just music at large. So. But I'm not going to bring it up, but he says, what's the biggest problem in music right now? So pretty just open-ended question. Like for you guys, what do you think? Do you have like one biggest problem in music?
I feel like I don't really believe in absolutes. There's only a handful of things that I believe in absolutes about. So I can't say the central biggest problem, but I think this is life. So I don't know if it's unfair for me to say this. I think the biggest problem is people's perspective, which is what we were just talking about. I think that people believe that music and the music business and all of this is just like fun and games. So I think it lends to a ton of problems. It lends to people not valuing the people around them. It lends to, artists not taking their opportunities as seriously as they should, and then the moment passes. It leads to a lot of unnecessary tension, people not valuing the opportunity of the internet right now, and spending more time complaining instead of realizing how good it is right now. People not understanding how to run a business, so I think for me, if it's a cheat, it could be a cheat, but I think perspective is the biggest problem in the music industry. And then kind of back to our whole first topic, people will be on this corner of the internet and focus there and be like, this is the way to do it if you're not doing it this way, or like, oh, I can't succeed because X, Y, and Z. Like, I am feeling really blessed right now because I consistently keep signing new consulting clients because people are focused like this. And I'm like, the world is like infinite. Like there's so many options and opportunities here. So I think what I keep coming across and what's paying my bills right now is that people's perspectives are just either super small or hyper focused on something that doesn't have to take their focus, or they're just missing it. They're not valuing something. So I think perspective is the biggest issue in the music industry, but I think that's the biggest issue in the world as well.
Why don't I go through some of the responses and then you guys tell me if you agree or disagree? So the first response was the attention span of listeners.
I don't think that's
podcasts are trending towards 2 hours as preferences right now. Like I'm studying this right now for another client. Podcasts are trending towards more time. So it's not the fans. Don't blame them.
Okay. Death of traditional A&R and artists needing to have their own traction before a label gives them the time of day. Is that a problem?
It's always been that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's always been that way, but nowadays it's more efficient. It just sounds like anytime I hear an artist say, why I got to have traction to get signed, I tune out, because why don't you have traction?
Yeah.
And what would you sign on to that didn't have traction? Like
right.
The logic doesn't make sense. And then the A&R argument is like music is subjective, and I do believe that they're putting out bullshit, but there's also so much quality. It's just such a narrow-minded approach to blaming somebody else. Like, at least try to blame somebody else competently.
All right, 150,000 new songs uploaded every single day. It's nearly impossible for new artists to break through the noise. Is that?
I think there is a lot of noise, but I feel like that's why you have to staff your weaknesses, and you have to learn, and you have to look at the internet and the world from a more wide perspective. I mean, it's an issue, but it's like, it is what it is. It's like being like, there's traffic in my city. That's not your problem. It is what it is. Just leave earlier.
I would say two things. One, there's no way to change that. And then two, there's also that stat that says, X amount of songs haven't received a single play, right? So you're really not competing with 150,000 because 150,000 aren't being streamed every single day. So that's why I wouldn't put that one high on the list. Let's see. Someone else says albums are not valued by the fan, but still are the best avenue to tell a story and immerse yourself into an artist's world. That's not even a response to the question, but do you want to comment on that? No.
I think we all agree that that's just, like you said, it's a matter of perspective, Aaron.
Artists don't know who their fans are.
That's a problem for them.
That's a really valid, I feel like, I think I hearted that one. I won't say it's the biggest problem, but it's definitely a really big problem. And I think because artists don't know who their fans are, if we go back up the list to the ones that you just read, that fixes a lot of the ones, even the whole album thing. If your fans want albums, you should know that. If your fans want singles or visuals or whatever, you should know that. If you know your fans, it doesn't matter that 150,000 songs get uploaded every day. It's a very valid one, and I like that one. It's a good perspective.
And it kind of really directly speaks on what our topic was last week, Aaron, where if people don't know who their fans are, then they look at their friends as a source of fandom. And that's when you know someone's just kind of groping around in the dark. Everyone goes through it, but some people are stuck in that space forever. But I also think they're stuck in that space because they don't want to shoot their shots and do their reps too.
The only reason I don't agree that this is the problem is because most people don't have fans. So I feel like you don't know who your fans are because you haven't created them yet, i.e. you haven't built your community, but it's all kind of in the same, like they are out there, you have to attract them / build them, cultivate them. So I still feel like it's all in the same, but yeah, I like this perspective.
But I wouldn't put that high on the list as a problem, because artists can solve this on their own to a certain degree. I mean, Spotify, it would be great if Spotify said, these are your monthly listeners, this is their contact information, and just hand it over to you. However, you can put an infrastructure in place to start to get to know who your fans are and get that data yourself. So I wouldn't put that, because to me, the problems are like the hardest ones to solve, or almost
right, that the technology currently has not addressed, and technology certainly has made analytics way easier now and data collection way easier. So you can identify who your fans are today 1,000,000 times quicker and easier than you could 25 years ago.
That's interesting though, because I feel like most artists will tell you that their biggest issue is connecting to fans. So again, I think it's perspective, and I'm with you both because it's super easy. Again, I'm winning right now, bless God, because this is what a lot of people are like, how do I, I'm like, build a community. And they're like, it's not that simple. I'm like, it's actually really simple. It takes a minute, but it's super simple. But I think maybe this is the block, because all three of us are like, that's not that difficult. And I think that that's the difference between the industry right now. Is this tug and pull about fandom, super fans, fan bases, building a community. And to me, it's like, if y'all are stuck on this, there's way bigger problems that need to be solved. So I think that's actually interesting, because I think this is the tug and pull that a lot of people experience.
And there's way more efficient ways to do it now. But like back in the Funk Volume days, I used to just tell people to put their email in a comment on Facebook, and I would just go through and copy and paste like emails into a spreadsheet. Or I would have people outside at our shows just signing people up, on sheets of paper.
Dave, talk about it. I used to sit at every show. I collected the tickets and on a sheet of paper would write everybody's email. And then I would send an e-blast from my personal email to people. I used to follow people on Twitter that were following my artists and be like, hey, thank you so much for showing them love. What's your email? So like, that's what I'm saying. Folks don't know. It's way easier now. We used to do manual labor to get an email that may never get opened.
Yeah. So it's just putting in the work. It's not fun. Going back to the fun stuff, it's not fun, but if you want this to be a career, you got to do the stuff that ain't fun. AI is both a problem and opportunity. That's whatever. Spotify. He said, here, if there's actually is one, it is when artists lose creative control. Nothing else truly matters when talking about just the music.
When people make statements like that, I feel like it's important to consider the source, because is this person speaking from experience, or did they see a movie, or did they read someone else's tweets, or like some Reddit post and like, yeah, that's how the music business is. You lose creative control. I mean, because to an extent, I've been in that situation and it's frustrating, but for the average person, it's not a problem.
Here's my take on this. A lot of independent artists need less creative control because y'all don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing, so you need people on your team that are more experienced to tell you how to make better music. Like, I wish some of the guys I've worked with before, like, had less creative control. Like, we would try, because I initially set up Funk Volume as like, look, obviously signed you for a reason. Come rock out, do what you do. I love what you do already. However, if I was to start a label again, I wouldn't have like expressed that there's that much freedom, because artists need to grow and develop, right? So because I set the tone of like, hey, you guys can come here and do whatever you want to do, because I already rock with your music, they kind of take that to the next level. And it's like, they're done with their album. Let's just say there's 15 songs on it, 10 are great, 3 are okay, 2 or whatever, because I said, you can kind of do what you want. They're going to want to keep all 15 songs on there, but not me, knowing it's like an addition by subtraction situation. And not just me, like the label, like Warner would be like, look, this actually would be a much better project if we took a couple of these songs off, maybe added them as a deluxe or put those out at some other time. It kind of messes with the flow and the consistency and overall cohesiveness of the project. So some of you guys need less creative control. You're not that good yet. You're just not good. The music's just not there. So I know that one of the main benefits of being independent is you have all this creative control. Get a team and some experienced people.
Creative control doesn't even just mean the music. Like, I know some artists that I would trust, like, hey, make the full album. But then you need help when it comes to creative marketing, rollout strategy. What is the actual story that you're telling? I know you think you're telling this, but I'm seeing all these themes from your previous album, and we can actually connect the dots more succinctly and give you a full funnel for people to filter into your world and feel really engaged. And the merchandise can be connected here, and this can be connected here. You're saying creative control out of ignorance. Who wants to control a tiny, like, do you want a pie this big, or would you like to control a portion of a pie that's 10 times bigger than that? So now you're controlling something that's 3 times bigger than the pie that you originally wanted to control every aspect of. So I think that's short-sighted. I also, to the music part, I know of so many artists who are great creatives, but if a label helps them get a hit, they're not angry at that. Like, what? it's just giving you an open door to be able to do more of the things that you want. And when people say things like that, my assumption is that you didn't play sports or that you were never actually the star player, because creative control still means that you may be the focal point or the main head of this, but you need the whole team and everybody around you to make it function well. It doesn't make sense to me. And not that you have to play sports to understand it, but I think team dynamics are so necessary for an artist to win. And so a lot of times when artists don't understand a healthy team dynamic, the sabotage comes in multiple levels because there's so many pieces that are missing because all they can see is themselves.
I mean, I hear artists all the time that I've worked with say stuff like, oh, if I could just get in the studio with Dre, if I could just get in the studio with Kanye, that's the type of producer I need. I'm like, you wouldn't survive that session because they'd actually be producing you, which entails giving you direction, and you don't take direction.
Yeah. A lot of artists struggle with that because they feel like they know everything already. You know, sometimes when like an established music exec is like listening to new music, and I think I just talked about this on Nyla's podcast, but when they're listening to new music, they'll be like, play another one, like play another one. What I think they're listening for is consistency. And that's where a lot of independent artists struggle, right? They'll have one song that goes and it's amazing, but they don't really fully understand like why that one went. So creating another one is a challenge. However, if you have a good grasp and you've gotten your reps in and you have the right people around that can give you the feedback and you really have developed your sound, consistency is not that much of a problem for you. So I like artists that are consistent. Well, I feel like Russ is super. He's gotten to a point, he doesn't really step outside of his lane too much. So he kind of, but he stays consistent in his pocket. I feel like Drake is consistent. I mean, there's a lot. I feel like Rex Life Raj is consistent. There are independent artists that are consistent, but it takes a while to get to that point, and it takes the right people in the room. Very few people can do that, like just on their own. And I don't think historically that has been the case with that many artists. Like they get help.
And then, okay, taking it back to Piff, he's consistent with his sound, but he gets burned out shooting the visuals. He gets burned out posting. He's talked about this. The ebb and flow of it. He's completely independent. He's a phenomenal editor and videographer. Like he has some really cool, but I've seen him recently bring in a video team because it's like he was so consistent for so long. It's so hard to keep that machine going. Like at any rate, like my career as an executive, manager, label owner, booking agent is so hard to keep stuff going consistently when it's all on you. So then you're like, maybe I'd be served better joining a team if I don't have a team of me's around me that can hold up the boat, So it's a lot. You don't understand what you're asking for when people say that. And then again, I won't harp on this, but I'm going to be careful about how much I say because I want to honor the people that I definitely still care about. But I have iterated with so many artists in different lanes, from independent labels to major labels to independent for 6, 7, 8+ years. If you do not value where you are right now and the autonomy that you have, if you don't value it by honoring it with consistency, when you get to your next level, you'll never value it. I had one artist tell me, my biggest thing is I want creative control. Bet when they got into a major label system, the major label, I fought for it. They gave us what we wanted. The artist did not deliver. The artist felt the weight and the pressure of what was being asked for at the new level and did not rise to the occasion. And you have to understand that when you say you want creative control, you're saying, give me your money as an investment. I'm putting the whole team on my back and I will play at NBA status level when all I've been doing is playing in the JV league down the street from my house. It's not going to work like that. And you have to understand it. And if you don't have a concept of what they need, then you're already shooting yourself in the foot by saying, saying, I want creative control. Flexibility, sure. Autonomy, sure. But full creative control is an insane ask when somebody's taking on the bulk of the risk.
What is the biggest problem in music for you, Payne?
Right now, I think the intersection of technology and intellectual property, because that's everything, you know, that's content ID, that's AI, that's sampling, that's splits, collaboration. It's
Spotify.
Spotify.